आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्मास्ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। Let us see where we were. Yeah. So we had finished up, at least in the Sanskrit, I think it's on the top of page 8. We had finished up summing up that nothing comes from asat. Asat as the cause of the universe or as the cause of anything has been refuted once and for all, or so we think. Because the Nanu is not very far away. Nanu means this annoying creature that keeps saying but, however, what about, well, this is the person who interrupts the teaching all the time, and it's none other than a hidden doubt hidden in one's own minds, which is very much in the realm of the subconscious or even the unconscious mind, and these kinds of questions come up and constantly distract from the teaching. That is why they are brought up and out, so that they can have their little time in the sun and either be dismissed or be given a feeding bottle and put to bed right then and there for a short while. Let them take a nap. That is the whole thing. Or we put a pacifier in their mouth. In any case, please do not disturb. That is the entire idea behind all these Purva Pakshis. So now a question is asked. So what is the question here? No, but however, hello, what do you mean? And all these are all the kinds of complaints. Nanu sadvadinah api satah sad utpadyate iti na eva drishtantah asti ghatantara utpatti adarshanath. Very interesting objection here. The objection here is that sadvadinah api, even for the people who are not asadvadis. Asadvadi means the one who says from the non-existence, existence has come. This is some kind of a Vaisheshika thinking, because non-existence is as real as existence, and so out of the destruction of non-existence gives birth to existence. Even to say that, with a straight face, you have to, it's just not, I don't know how they can think that. But this is the machinations of a mind that is mired in subjectivity, and when there are enough takers, it becomes a philosophy. This is the problem. And so here the Adi Shankara just was taking a sip of water in between his sentences. He was just thinking, oh, okay, this is, I have summed it up. And what had he summed up? That nahi कथं केन प्रकारेण असतः सज्जायेत इति. So asatah sad utpattau na kaschitapi drishtanta asti iti abhiprayah. So in no manner, at no time is it possible for existence to come out of non-existence. Point number one. Point number two, okay, if even I were to accept that temporarily for the time being, there is no example. You have zero example. You have no example at all. And so therefore, this because you lack an example, you cannot even prove your point to me. And you don't take the Veda, so the Veda of course doesn't even say this, so then you can't even prove this point. And so therefore, please keep quiet, do us all a favor, do not talk right now. And then of course what does he do? He doesn't listen, and again the fellow is back. And then he says, okay, I am a Vainashika. I am saying everything has come, everything is non-existent. But what about you? You are a Sadvadin, means a proclaimer of Sat. You are the one who defends Sat. Satvadin means the one who keeps on talking about Sat. So even for you Sadvadins, Satah Sat Utpadyate is born. Satah, fifth case, from Sat is born. Iti, in this manner, na eva drishtantah asti. You also don't have an example. Where is your drishtanta? You have the same thing that you accused me of, says the Vainashika. I am throwing this back at you. Where is your example? That Sat comes from Sat. Because the example you gave was pot. Pot has come. But then we don't see one pot coming out of another pot. The mother pot doesn't have labor pains and give birth to baby pot. We don't see that. Ghatat, from the pot, ghata antara, another pot, utpatti, birth, adarsanat, the non-seeing. And this is the hetu. This is the hetu, means the logic, the reason given. And the reason given is what? Ghatat, ghatantara utpatti adarsanat. Because we don't see one pot coming out of one pot, out of another pot. So that means what? Your Sat is also, you as a Sadvadin is completely dismissed here, because your idea, and what is your idea? That out of Sat comes. That also doesn't have an example. That also lacks an example. And so therefore, the Sat will not come, because one pot cannot come from another pot. And and you also don't see, you also don't have any example to tout this point. To it's like it's like the what is that? We have a saying, the bitter gourd laughing at the neem leaves. So the bitter gourd is already bitter, and the neem is also bitter. So the bitter gourd has a nice thing, and it says, "Look, you are so bitter," and then the neem leaves will have to say, "But first look at yourself. Have you tasted yourself?" So here, this is the kind of a akshepa here, an objection. And then from Adi Shankara we understand how to respond to the objection. So how to respond? You first as though agree with the person, and this is true even in life with regard to all kinds of disagreements. You just say, yeah, I think you have a point, but let us see further. So this is, you disarm them right at the beginning. I can see that there is a point in your talk, and you have to be honest. You're not just being insincere. You're sincerely saying this. And so the response to this objection is as follows. Satyamevam na satah sadantaram utpadyate. Satyamevam, true. And what is true? That one out of Sat is not born another Sat. Why? Simply because how many Sats are there? Ekam, Advitiyam, non-dually one Sat. So what you say is correct. I am in full agreement. I am glad, in fact, that you are seeing the light along with me. You are walking along with me. This is a great moment. Because you are leaving your funny ways. You are leaving your ways of that make no sense at all. So, Satyamevam. Yes, this is correct. Sadantaram, another Sat, Satah, from the Sat that we have been talking about. And what is the Sat that we have been talking about? Ekam, one alone. This is the Shruti Vakya. The Shruti is saying Ekam, and then what? Advitiyam, non-dually one. It's not half a Sat, 1/4 Sat, nothing like that. Sadantaram utpadyate, correct. Kim tarhi, but then what is happening here? Sadeva samsthana antarena avatishthate. Sat alone avatishthate, presides, exists. And how does it exist? In the form of another samsthana. Samsthana means another swarupa, another form, another rupa. So, what you say is correct. From one Sat, another Sat cannot be born. But Sadeva samsthana antarena avatishthate. The same Sat exists in another form. And here, my dear fellow, we have an example. What is this? What is the example? Yatha sarpaha kundali bhavati. So, just as a snake. So, what is the first? You see the snake. And then the snake is just lying on the path. Long, several feet. Like a train. It's just lying on the road. And I have seen, I've seen it like that, lying on the road. And sometimes they camouflage so nicely. They have, the road is grey, the snake is grey, and the road has certain flecks in the light of the afternoon or late afternoon. When I saw this particular snake, and the snake also is grey with some flecks. And those flecks cause you to have an instant reflex after seeing the snake, and then you are able to distinguish it from the road, because there is a little, it looks like a speed bump, but actually it's a python, and then it is lying there. And then you back off respectfully, and then you wonder what it's going to do, and from a safe distance you watch it. You blink, you start talking to your companions, and then in that moment it has disappeared. Where did it go? Then you look for it here, there, everywhere, and then it has become a kundali. Kundali means it has coiled up. Now it is sitting on the side of the road, it has coiled up. You see? So, from that long snake, you see, so that long snake has become a spring-like coil, the kind that Lord Vishnu lies on. Yeah, the original, that's how they got the idea of a coiled mattress. Yeah, the original coiled mattress. This is how they got the idea from Adishesha, the snake which had coiled up. So here this snake is now, first it was on the road, stretching itself, sunning itself, and then suddenly it saw some people are walking, and it got also scared. It wants to live, it doesn't want to be beaten to death or cudgelled, etc. So what does it do? It becomes a coil. So yatha sarpaha kundali bhavati. So just as the what? The snake. So that time it was what? Snake. Now it has become a spring, a coil. And so it has curled itself into a circle. And this is what is called samsthana vishesha. Samsthana vishesha means the same sat exists which is in another form. That is what he says. Very beautiful example he has given here. The snake has not changed in any way. The same snake is there. It is not that it has even sloughed off its skin or anything. The same snake has just wound itself up on a tree and has in a coiled shape, or has become in a coiled shape. Kundali means coil. That's how the word Kundalini has come from. Kundali. So that Shakti which is seen as some kind of a that's lying coiled like a snake at the base of the spine. Yeah, and we have to treat the Kundalini also with respect, the same respect that you give to the snake. Don't try to wake it up. Okay, let it be. Yeah. Let it be, because that's not moksha. I have to say this. Don't try to wake it up. Let a sleeping snake lie sleeping. What if it gets up on its own? Let it. Witness that. Be the witness and connect to that which is asanga. Nissango prajnaya bhavet. The grand guru of Adi Shankaracharya advises in the Mandukya Karika, Nissango prajnaya bhavet, because in the scope of one's meditative life, all kinds of experiences will come. Bubbles of joy. Suddenly one starts grinning with the eyes closed. Why? God only knows. And then suddenly one starts wailing. One starts shaking. All these things happen. They are all happening to the body, mind, sense complex, not to you. Do not attach to either the happy events in the meditation where you start grinning, or do not attach even to the sad events in the meditation. And then when you master this in the meditation, then this spills over hopefully to life, where you are asanga and do not get perturbed by either of the situations. So here, now back to the example, the snake has coiled into a circle. And then he gives one more example. Yathacha mrit churna pinda ghata kapaladhi prabhedaihi. Prabhedaihi, then bhavati we have to add. Bhavati vartate. So prabhedaihi vartate bhavati. What bhavati? Mrit bhavati. Just like the clay is. Clay is what? In the form of churna, powder. And then pinda, lump. Then out of pinda what comes? Ghata, pot. And then what happens to the pot? Oh no, it broke. And then what shall we call it now? Of course it's a crack pot. So then kapala means crack pot, split pot. Okay. So no pun intended, but kapala is also head. Head also is called kapala. So anyhow, so here the beautiful another example is given from the same Shruti itself. And what is that example? Yathacha, just as the clay exists in all these forms. First the potter goes and harvests the subsoil from the forest or from a abandoned lot somewhere, and then brings it home. And there and then it is allowed to dry. And after that there is a mesh, and then it is rubbed through a fine mesh. This is what is called churna, powder. It has to be very fine. All the impurities, pebbles and all these other things have to be nicely removed. So then Then when it is churna, it just lies there, and it is allowed to just it is allowed to be there and lie there, and then dry out. And then if you touch it, it is just, that is how they get all this, what is this called? Multani mitti. There is this some kind of a pack, face pack, the clay pack. And so this is what it is. It is so fine, it is sieved through muslin cloth or something, I suppose, and then it is made into a fine, fine powder. Because when you make the pot, you don't want all impurities there. Some straw, some pieces of lint, all these things, it should be removed. So this is churna, that's emrit. So when you go and see the potter sieving the clay, then it is still clay. It's a sieved clay. And then after that what? Then you go somewhere, finish your errands, come back, and what is the potter doing? Wearing what is that? Wearing boots, and then putting water in that sieved clay, and then trampling it nicely, kneading it with the feet, kneading it with the legs, and so this is now, then it becomes a lump. This is pinda, same clay. And then after that, that pinda, you take a small ball and throw it on the wheel. You see the potter throwing it on the wheel and then shaping that into a beautiful pot. Then what happens? Then that pot is nicely taken out of that and then put in the kiln. And then after that, you just sandpaper it for all the excess things to go, whatever pieces of clay might be there. You sandpaper it, and then you take it to the market to be sold along with other things that have come out of the oven. And then what? You put it all on a donkey and take it. And the donkey just has a itch, poor thing, and it goes like this. And then it just offloads whatever was put on it, and this pot that was freshly made falls on the road, falls off the donkey, and then becomes kapala. Still mrit. Ghata, still mrit. Churna, still mrit. Pinda, still mrit. Therefore, out of Sat has come Akasha, still Sat. Vayu, still Sat. Prithvi, still Sat. Apaha, waters, all the 5 elements, still Sat. Just like the clay. What an example, very beautiful. And then, so therefore, there is no another Sat coming. There is not another Sat coming out of one Sat. Please understand this. And so therefore what? It's the same Sat appearing or manifesting in different forms. The Purvapakshi is not convinced. Yadi evam sadeva sarva prakaravastham katham pragutpattehe idam asiditi uchyate. Wait a minute. You have a nice way with words. Nobody can deny that. And you give all these nice examples, and I get caught up in the examples because now I am imagining a nicely sieved clay, and then now I am imagining it being kneaded with water and all these things, and you cannot distract me. Your words are very, very nice. You give good examples. You are a vachala. Vachala means you can talk very well, but you have inserted something which doesn't belong. So you have said that Sat is in many forms. Okay. And you gave 2 examples. One is of Chetana, a sentient snake. First it was lying straight horizontally, and then now it is lying in the form of a coil. It has coiled itself into a circle. Okay. And then you gave a Jada example, an insentient example of how clay subsists in many, many forms it exists. However, there was nowhere any kind of an agreement between us that this Jagat is going to come into the picture. You suddenly start talking about the Jagat. So, Sat can live in many forms. But where is it said that before this Jagat came into being, it was Sat? Katham? How is it said? Why is it said? Where is it said? Adi Shankara is going to lose his patience, and let us see that. So this is the question. If you understand the question, yadi evam sadeva, if indeed, as you say, Sat alone sarva prakara avastham in many forms, katham, then how come prag utpattehe, before this Jagat has come into being, idam asid iti uchyate, this Sat, this Jagat was Sat. Nowhere you can convince me of that. You cannot say that this Sat alone was. This Jagat was Sat alone. There you cannot convince me, because you have said that, you have said that, okay, Sat has many forms, but where Sat is this Jagat, you cannot say. And then he is going to lose his cool, Adi Shankara. Nanu nashrutam tvaya sadeva iti avadharanam idam shabdavachyasya karyasya. Nanu means you are not the only one that can get annoyed and say Nanu. I am also nanuing you now. And so meaning, wake up. And what do you mean? What do you mean? That, what have we been talking about all this time? Idam shabdavachyasya avadharanam. Avadharanam means we have ascertained this Sat to be nothing but this Jagat, to refer to this Jagat alone. We have ascertained this. When? 15 classes ago. we have ascertained this. So many classes ago, we have ascertained this. This is the 15th class. So in the first class itself, we have ascertained this. Sat means, this Sat is nothing but Idam Jagat in its unmanifest form. That is what is called Sat. What were you doing at that time? Where were you? And how come you are you haven't not heard this? Nanu, indeed, nashrutam tvaya. Looks like the brains had gone to graze in some pastures. Maybe on some wheat grass, because the person is into macro food, okay, yeah, and raw food. So this is raw food people very easy. No cooking at all. You can save so much money, because for lunch you just graze in the front yard, and then for dinner you just graze in the backyard for a change. Dandelions will be there, and then what else, wheat grass will be there. You just have to compete with cows and goats in India. You have to saying shoo shoo, and poor things, they are all so surprised, but they will accept things, no problem. So they'll give you your own little patch to graze on. So what looks like your brains had gone to graze. Somewhere you had kept your brains and then come to class. That is what it looks like, because you are not understanding this at all. Nanu nashrutam tvaya. Was it not heard by you? What was not heard? Sadeva iti avadharanam. The ascertainment of Sat. As what? As being in apposition with idam. Idam shabdavachyasya. That Sat was seen as non-separate from Jagat, from Idam, because Sadeva, so Idam agre asit. Sadeva Idam They were all in apposition. We saw that. They were referring to the same thing. So this Jagat was Sat before it came into manifestation. And what was this? This Sat? This Sat was, this Sat in the form of Karya was already there. This Jagat in the form of Karya, Karya means effect, was already there in an unmanifest form. In an unmanifest form it was there. Looks like you were sleeping, or you came late to class, or you missed all the other 15 classes somehow, and you're showing up with a fresh brain. Like the student in the Kena Upanishad. There is one student in the Kena Upanishad who was just sitting quietly, and the teacher uses every single example and then teaches the entire Upanishad so beautifully. Hand is raised. Even in Zoom we have the hand raised, this thing is there, option is there. So the student raises the hand. What? And the teacher gets very happy, because if you have a doubt, that means you have been listening. Okay? So then the teacher gets very happy. And the teacher says, yes, please tell me, what is your doubt? Upanishadam bho bruhi. Oh, revered sir, I'm waiting for you to teach me the Upanishad. Please teach me the Upanishad. And then really, we all learn how to teach after looking at the patience of this teacher, really, and the compassion also. Because, he doesn't throw something at the student. He doesn't chide or scold the student. He simply says, Ukta te Upanishad. I have already taught you the entire Upanishad. He doesn't say, what were you doing? Where were you? And he doesn't say that. The teacher simply says the truth. I have already taught you the Upanishad. Now what? Now since you asked, I don't want you to feel bad. And I don't want you to feel like you were caught sleeping when you were supposed to be listening. Vedanta is very relaxing. Because unless you are practicing yoga and all these other, meditation, then if you come to Vedanta, then what happens is that you start feeling very, very relaxed, because you're listening to the truth of yourself. You are none other than Bhagavan. What other comforting and relaxing message is there? Nothing else. And so when you hear it, what happens is that you go to sleep, because every other sleep is disturbed. So you happily go to sleep here, because as I said, unless one is practicing meditation or yoga, one doesn't know that there can be other deep ways of relaxing without going to sleep. This is how it is. And so the teacher doesn't chide the student. Very nicely and patiently explains, okay, I have already taught the Upanishad. Now I will tell you what you need to do in order to not fall asleep. Basically, some sadhana is given. At this time, some sadhana is given, and then, how to, some karma yoga, etc. All this is given. So this is how one teaches. But here, here the teaching is not happening. This is more of a vada, a discussion. And so for the discussion, the Adi Shankara chiding him is very, very appropriate. What were you doing? We had already ascertained the meaning of the word Sat to be nothing other than this Jagat. We had seen that. This Jagat was Sat before it came into being. And then what? Yeah, so that is what he says. And then let's see. Yeah. So it's not that it was before Sat. Now also it is Sat. Now it is available for your appreciation in the form of Nama Rupa as Idam Shabda Vachya, as this cognition, as the product or the object of this cognition. This table, this chair, this sun, this moon. So it is available. Before it was not available. That is why it is called Srishtehe Prak Sadeva Asit. Now also it is Sadeva. Earlier it was not available for objectification. That is the only difference. And then the meaning of the idam shabda was jagat in the form of sat, and therefore this eva, you haven't paid attention, dear fellow, why? Because it was already talked about the reason why sad eva was there. The evakara, the eva is for that ascertainment of the jagat alone was sat. It was sat alone. Iti avadharanam. This kind of certainty was there. And then, what? And then, so he says, let's see what he says. Then he has one more question. Praptam tarhi pragutpattehe asadeva asit na idam shabdavachyam idanim idam jatam iti. So, prag utpattehe, before the creation came into being, asadeva asit. Asat alone was, non-existent alone must have been. Why? Na idam shabdavachyam. Because you say that this cognition, this buddhi, this cognition is only available now, as in this pot, this glass, this computer, this window, this door. Before that, you yourself said that it wasn't available for this cognition. Therefore, what must it have been? Non-existent. It must have been asat. Because, if you say a non-existent object, if you see clearly, a non-existent pot, you cannot refer to as this pot. Only an existent pot you can refer to as this pot. You cannot refer to a non-existent pot as this pot, because it is not occupying space, it is not available for objectification. So that means what? So the na idam shabda vachyam. So you yourself said you are digging a big pit for yourself. My dear Adi Shankara, not only are you digging a big pit for yourself, you are proceeding to fall into it as we speak. Here, let me offer you a hand to bring you up. What kind of a hand? A non-existent hand, of course, because everything is non-existent according to my philosophy. So let me offer you a hand, because you're falling in this quicksand pit which you have dug for yourself. Because you yourself said that Sat alone, Jagat alone was Sat, but now it is available for appreciation, objectification, and therefore it has become idam shabda vachyam. It has become the cognition of this idam buddhi, this cognition, this buddhi. It has become, it is available for objectification. Previously it was not available for objectification, and from the world we know, from the worldly examples and our own experience, we know that that which is not available for objectification is non-existent. So this is his argument. Okay, so then this is, this is something, Adi Shankara brings out this particular, he's not drilling the same point. Sometimes we think, especially when we are studying Bhashya, it is very easy to think, wasn't this point studied before? We had already dismissed the Asatvadi, the one who says Asat is the cause of Sat. We have dismissed that particular viewpoint very nicely last week. And then why are we talking about this again? We are not talking about it again. There is a difference. We are talking about it in a very, very different way. And how are we talking about it? We are talking about it from a particular standpoint with a particular purpose. First, let us see the purpose. The purpose here is to contradict and to put in their place these people called Arambhavadis. Arambhavadis are like Sherlock Holmes. Arambha means beginning. So they want to see what happened, who done it, how did this take place. They want to analyze the data, and if Jagat is the data, then what is its source? I want a particular time and date this Jagat was born. Why? Because I want to sing Happy Birthday Jagat. Why do you want to sing Happy Birthday Jagat? Well, because I want to, because this is what I am. I want to know the origin of everything. I want to know when this world, this universe was born. And of course, if you look at certain theologies, they will say it was born 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, like that. Some theologies say that. But, that if it says that, we have to take it metaphorically, but literally it is not possible to see that. Why? Because some of our buildings are 3,000 years old. We have certain buildings that are 3,000 years old, which we can go visit. And so therefore, and then all you need to do is go visit a state park. And then usually, especially in the west coast of the US, and then what happens, there will be this big huge redwood tree that would have fallen, and they take a slice of that and they put it there. I mean, the girth is this big, huge. And then, to make it more interesting for the tourists, they will have little pins and little red flags which will say what that event was. It will trace the history of humanity. It will talk of all the wars, First World War, Second World War, this, that, everything. And then there is this one more pin, birth of Jesus Christ. It will be there. And then, because the rings of the tree, each ring is 1 year. So then you can see that it is this beginning Vadins, the people who always want to look for beginnings, this Vedanta doesn't sit well with them. Why? Because here our position is that there is no beginning for Sat. No, but the Jagat, there is an end. There is no beginning, because what we are saying is Sat alone is. Jagat is Sat. And before Jagat, quote unquote, came into being, Sat alone was there. So if we look at it from our pot clay example, it becomes much clearer. So when you look at the pot from its own standpoint, you say the birthday of this pot is such and such a day. Happy birthday pot. We can sing happy birthday, because sometimes when you see these pots that are made, underneath will be the signature of the artist and the date of creation. That's how we know when it was born. And so you can have a little cake for the pot and a little candle and wish it happy birthday. And then, from the standpoint of Vyavahara, empiricality, transactability, you can definitely wish the pot a happy birthday. So this is the Arambhavadi, the one who looks for beginnings and only sits happily after their curiosity for the beginning is assuaged. But then, from the standpoint of Vedanta, there is only clay. No pot has come on any appointed date. No pot has come. Then also it was clay. Now also it is clay. When you take a hammer and beat up the pot and make it into churna again, what will be there? Clay, clay, clay all the way. Clay alone. So because you think of a pot as you think of the pot as separated from clay. That's why you have to have some kind of a beginning logic, the logic of beginnings. You have to have an origin story. People want origin stories. People want origin stories partly because, again, this is because of one's own psychology. People want origin stories because, you see, one is born alone. No, but I was a twin. But still, you were either 5 minutes earlier or half an hour later than your sister or brother. So they still goes. One is born alone. And once the umbilical cord is cut, there is this feeling of utter and total unsafety, alienation from the whole. That's why one is looking for the mother, something comforting, looking for the father, some safety. And that same, in the search for this security in the mother and the father, the local mother and the father, if one has that desire for moksha, culminates into the search for the mother and the father of the universe. The whole thing is a wonderful trajectory. And discovering the mother and the father of the universe, one becomes ready for Vedanta. After this bhakti, after this shraddha, everything comes. And so you see, a commitment to Vedanta, a desire to learn, means one has to be able to kiss this penchant for origins. One has to at least be able to suspend it and put it aside. Otherwise, when did this start? Before that, when did that start? I tell you, if the Jagat started, then it will become another reality parallel to Sat. That is why nothing starts. There is no beginning, much less an ending. What this Jagat is, and this is what it's proceeding beautifully, this Bhashya. This is where it will go. It's proceeding step by step. There, after this, Adi Shankara will take us to seeing that this Jagat is nothing but a imposition on the Sadvastu. And as though superimposition, we are headed there. We are not quite there because we are proceeding line by line and step by step. So therefore Jagat must have been asat. We cannot accept that, because here what is being put down is not just the Vainashika but the Arambhavadin. So before the pot, quote unquote, came into being, it existed. How did the pot exist? It existed in the potter's head as a concept, as a possibility. And so when the pot is made, it's just the possibility collapsing. The physicists will say, they use the word collapsing. Collapsing means actualized. A possibility is actualized from an unmanifest pot, which is in the form of an ideation. An idea of a pot sitting in the knowledgeable head of the potter is then comes out in the form of a manifest, actualized pot. And therefore, there is no creation as such. No creation. Because if there is such a thing called creation, it is mithya. This is where the whole discussion is heading. To talk about mithya. That which has come out of Sat is nothing but Sat, but it is objectifiable. It has a certain name and form. It is available for appreciation. It is available to be named and to be grasped by the various sense organs and other means of knowledge that are available to us. It is available. And then, but really speaking, there is no beginning. Anadi, no beginning. Because mithya doesn't require a beginning. Mithya is there, right? The mithya is also there as a possibility right from the beginning. Then, because if anything had a beginning, it would be a parallel reality to Satyam. And so, when you analyze, the second point is this: when you analyze each and every object in the universe, it reduces to the word is. Is it not? Yeah. It reduces to the word is. What can you say about the pot? It is brown in color. See, you have to use the word is. It is of a particular shape, round. It is of a particular size. It has a particular mass, volume, weight. It is glazed, meaning some paint has been put on it before it was put in the oven, before it was baked. It is baked. Is asti iti upalabhyate. That asti is sat. In fact, sat and asti are the same. That is, so what anything you see in the universe, however you describe its name, however you describe its form, it just reduces to asti. The pot is available as asti, never as nasti, because even before the pot came into being, it was already there in the potter's head. In the potter's intellect it was sitting, and now it is visible to everybody's intellect. Now one can appreciate the potter's intellect in the form of this pot that has come out. And so therefore what? So therefore the whole thing is like that. Asti, one asti reduces to another asti, reduces to another asti. We have already discussed this in the form of avayava and avayavi. Avayava means what? The parts, constituents. Avayavi, that object to which the constituents belong. Avayavi. So, in table and legs of the table, here is a small quiz. What is avayava and what is avayavi? Legs of the table, avayava, constituents. Table, avayavi, that which has legs, avayavi. So avayava nasti. This is what the Vainashika, the nihilist, was correct when the nihilist said that that the avayava does not exist. Yes, but we add a little more to that. We say the constituents do not exist without the avayavi, without that which holds the constituents. And if we take the example of a shirt, so the shirt first we say is avayava, but then where is the avayavi? The avayavi, the one on which the shirt depends, is fabric. Fabric is avayavi. Can we stop there? No. Fabric also is avayava. Fabric becomes effect. When? From the standpoint of yarn, fabric becomes effect. And then from the standpoint of the yarn becomes avayavi. And then the yarn itself is an effect from the standpoint of fibers, cotton fibers, all these fibers, everything. And then from the standpoint of fibers itself become what? Avayava. Then molecule becomes avayavi, everything. Then finally, what is the non-reducible avayavi? And that which cannot be reduced into another thing. It has to end in Sat, which is Brahman, which is Atma. Tattvamasi Shvetaketo. Later on, this is what is going to be told. This is something brilliant. Adi Shankara, the way he is taking us on this, holding our hand and taking it step by step. So it doesn't require, we don't need to require, we don't need to look into origin theories. And the people who are obsessed with origins, it's better to heal that insecurity which is often at the back of these origins. Origin, the search for origins. And once one is able to suspend this search for origins, Vedanta takes you back to yourself. You are the origin that you are looking for. Look in the mirror. And what is the name of the mirror? Chandogya Upanishad. That is the name of the mirror. There is a festival in India, in Kerala. There is a kind of a spring festival. It comes in April, and then in this, so it's during the harvest and everything. And so then the altar is arranged with all kinds of harvest is brought. Everything that is there, fruits, flowers, everything is beautifully arranged. An altar is arranged. And then at the center of the altar is a huge cleaned mirror. And then a tilak is put on the mirror, and a garland is put on the mirror. And then, the elders gives children some money and some presents. And then, and then you are told, please have darshan of Bhagavan. And then when you are a child, the adult will adjust you so that tilak is right here, the bindi is right here, and then they will go away. And then you see yourself garlanded. This is Bhagavan. This is Vedanta. This is metaphorically, this is what is happening here. The Chandogya Upanishad is saying, why are you worried about small origin stories? They may give you an immediate high. They may just tell you that this is wonderful. Oh, yeah, this is what happened. And that's why all these websites are becoming very famous. Ancestry.com. I don't know, I don't know how they will say. Everybody puts their last names. What do you do if you're Indian? You don't have a last name. You make up some last name. You don't have a last name. This last name is a present of the prasada of colonialism. We don't have a last name. We really don't. I mean, we just, this one from this village. This is how one was known. And if the person was young, it would be just girl or boy. If the person was little older, they would be called sister, brother. If the person was still little older, mother, father. Everybody called mother, father, uncle, aunt. And then if you were still older, grandma, grandpa. That was it. After your name, grandma, grandpa. That's how it was. But then, thanks to colonialism and census, and then they would just make up all these last names. You don't have a last name. And then you put your name in ancestry.com, and then it will give some results. You are related to, it will never tell you are related to some die-hard criminal. It will never say that. It will say you are related to some wonderful person. See, in the Hindu tradition, we even locally, even if you don't know Vedanta, you trace your origin to a rishi, any rishi. This is what the whole thing is. But where did the rishi come from? You don't question, because there is an injunction. Rishi moolam na vicharayet. Don't go into finding what is the source of the rishi, because the answer that will come is gorilla, chimpanzee. That is all will come. And so you don't do that. You say, okay, you take the most illustrious sage in the tradition, and then you say, this is where I have my origins. And you leave it at that. Therefore, you grow up with some kind of a self-esteem. That is the whole idea. So here,
Hello.
you don't look for origins. You don't look for some kind of what's its name? Where did this body, mind, sense complex come from? Because it did not come. All that is here is Sat, which is you. And so Vedanta takes this search for origin into another level, into a completely different level, by turning this whole question back to you. Just like that Kerala festival, where you look at yourself, and the child, everybody is told, please have darshan of Bhagavan, and what you see is yourself. That is what the whole thing is. And in order to qualify for that, these local origins, one has to let go of that. And the sooner one lets go of that, the earlier it is. So then, the difference between the non-existent Vadins, the Vainashikas, and the Vaisheshikas, etc., and us, the Vedantins, is that they say, okay, shirt is false, then what? Fabric is also false, everything is false, the whole thing is zero. That's where we differ. We say the whole thing is not non-existent. The avayavi is not there locally, it is correct, but the avayavi, that which holds everything together as though, is what? Sat. Avayavi asti. And then if mithya is nothing but sat. Mithya is not delusion or illusion. Mithya is sat. But sat is not mithya. This we have to remember. Mithya is sat, because mithya is non-separate from sat. Sat, however, is not mithya. This is what is being conveyed by this drishtanta, the example of mrit, etc., gold pot, clay, gold ornament, whatever we have been seeing, is that the ornaments and the nail cutter and the what was the other one, the pot, have no existence independent of their source. This is what it is. And then all the way, and then if we talk about the Jagat, all the way it is Sat, 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 Sat. Before creation it is what? Sat. After creation it is Sat. The whole thing, the whole Jagat is just a cycle of Nama and Rupa. There is no new creation. What is there is just a change of form. Samsthana, called Samsthana Vishesha. And that something changing from one form to another is again as though, which is what? Which is again mithya. So this is, we have to see. And then let's see. So this was his question. Then nahi praptam tarhi prag utpattehe asadeva asit na idam shabda vachyam. So therefore Jagat must have come from asat. And then that is being refuted here. Na satah eva idam shabda buddhi vishayataya avasthanadi yatha mrideva pinda ghatadi shabda buddhi vishayatvena avatishthate tadvat. Very interesting. So now what is he going to, he is in his rebuttal, Adi Shankara is also establishing one more important point. First, the point that was established was that nothing is non-existent. Jagat is non-separate from Sat. That was established. Mithya was established. Now, what is being established is Karyam Karanat Ananyat. Karyam, effect. Karanat, from the cause. Ananyat, non-separate. So this question that is being talked about here is a person who is seeing everything as discrete, without any relationship whatsoever. Who is this person? The Vaisheshika, of course. Oh, Vaisheshika I thought was gone. No. Vaisheshika is sitting in the class. Vainashika is also sitting in the class. Just because they are quiet, that doesn't mean that they are not there. They are sitting in the class. They have been listening. And now, this person, the one who says that there is really no cause, no effect, each thing is separate, each thing is its own thing. Everything asti, okay, I will go with you, asti, asti, asti iti upalabhyate. Everything obtains as asti, asti. Fine, let it obtain as asti. But then this, pot asti, clay asti. There are two astis, not one asti. Two things are there, not one thing is there. You cannot say that, it may be cause. Yes, you can say it is cause, but then you see the pot and then you see the lump of clay. Those are two separate things. Why? He gives two reasons. In this akshepa, he gives two reasons. So he says that he gives two reasons. What is the first reasons? That bhinna shabda vachyam, meaning you have a separate word for pot, correct? You call something pot, and then you call that which has come from clay. Bhinna shabda, two different words are there. So they are the vachya, meaning they have recourse to two different words. If one flowed from the other, if one had anuvritti from the other, meaning if from the clay the pot flowed or the pot came out of clay, then you should have the same word for both. One is karana, you say, one is karya, one is cause, one is effect. But no, you have two different words referring to two different objects, two different pratyayas, two different cognitions, two different substantives. So this is bhinna buddhi vishayatvat. So when I look at clay, I have clay buddhi. I cognize clay, correct? And when I look at pot, I have pot buddhi. I cognize this as pot and that as clay. So between that and this, how can there be a relationship? There are two different separate cognitions, and then that is the first point. And then to ratify that, to underscore that, we have two different words for those two different cognitions. Two different words are also given. What are the two different words? One is called clay, the other is called pot. Mrit is a vastu, clay is a thing, it's an object. The pot is also an object. The cup is also an object. A lid made of clay is also an object. Each thing is different from the other. So then, so what is the contention? The contention is this: asti iti buddhehe anya buddhi vishayastvat karyasya. So you cannot say everything obtains as asti asti sat sat sat, because in your example the pot is different from clay, it is called differently, it is cognized differently, and then in grammar both of them have certain declensions. Ghataha, ghatau, ghataha. Like this. They have different declensions. And then, so therefore, they are two different words. And therefore, you cannot say, and even in the effect, forget the example, if you say Jagat, in the Jagat also, space, time, 5 elements, they all have different words. And when I look at the fire, one of the elements, it is different from earth and it is different from water. All these things are different. So the karya, the effect, is different from sat buddhi, sat iti buddhi, which is the sat cognition. Sat cognition is different from that which has come out, such as all the namas, name and rupa. This is the objection, because what we have to prove now, anirvachaniyatvam or mithyatvam. Mithyatvam means that this whole thing is just mithya alone. Two different, that everything is sat, whatever has come has as though come. And it is possible to see the clay separately, but then when you look at pot, can you stop looking at the clay? No, that is what he is going to say. When you look at pot, you don't stop looking at the clay. You can appreciate it as clay even as you look at the pot. You don't stop looking at the at the clay. Similarly, this is even more poignant in the argument of gold and ornament. When you look at the ornament, you see gold at the same time. Why? Because the cause inheres the effect. Simple. The cause inheres the effect. When you see the nail cutter, you see steel at the same time, in the same place. And so therefore, this bhinna shabda vachyatvam, the fact that they are known by different words does not really contradict this argument at all. So more we shall see. This seems like a good place to stop. More we shall see tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Some question is there. If everything exists before we are able to sense it, then everything is kind of past, even if it is asti. Well, past means, yes, in a way you are right, because we are always looking at the past. Even when you see something, it takes time for the light to reach the eyes and then for that sight to take place. You are seeing everything in the past, but really speaking, there is no past. No past. Vedanta makes a repast out of the past. That is Vedanta, Yeah. So, there is no past, there is no future, there is only presence, which is the present. And we are constrained to say present, but actually it is presence. And that which is you, that's what it is. And then another question, is there fear in the search for origin? Perhaps, I don't know. But I think there is fear when there is a feeling that there is no origin, that insecurity comes, and that is what leads one to search for origins locally, because you don't know any other way. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. See you all later. Om Tat Sat.